Hari Om. We are in chapter 15, verse number 11. So far we have seen that chapter 15 is a kind of introduction between us and Bhagwan, which means that Purushottamaha, we are supposed to know about that Uttam, that highest Purusha, the highest knowledge or the highest being, Purushottama. Now, where is this highest Purushottama? It's like saying ki I enter a room and then with a flick of the switch, there are lights and lamps and fans which switch on, and there's a tube light and there's a corner lamp, everything switches on, and there is brightness in the room. And then I ask a strange question. I say, I don't see electricity, so I don't believe in it. You would say, are you crazy? That's the kind of craziness we live in. We see the power of our speech, of our thought, our ability to analyze, to love, to hate, to work, to have success in the world, to be able to see the world in the sense, not just with the physical eyes, but to be able to translate that image into something meaningful. Every ability in the world and also involuntary functions of the body. And yet we ask this strange question. Some of us in the world, we say, Bhagwan, आपके भगवान कहाँ हैं? हमें तो नहीं दिखते. Now, Bhagwan has got too many loaded connotations. That's why they say, many people in their simplistic way of thinking believe that perhaps Bhagwan is an image or a person or a judge or a tyrant or a king somewhere else. Now, that's why they say, aapke Bhagwan, humko to nahi dikhte. Now, electricity is like that. Electricity is not an electricity grid or a tower or a power pylon. Pylon is that tower which stands with electric. It's none of these. It's that energy which is flowing through every wire and coming into the small little implements. That energy, can you see it? No. And then you say, aapki electricity kahan, aapke Bhagwan kahan hai? Now, that power, that conscious principle, that is the one that makes us alert and awake and able to function completely. When we are asleep, our organs are still functioning. And with all this evidence, I still say, where is that conscious principle? It's like saying, I see all the lit up bulbs in the room and I say, where is your jolly electricity? I don't see it, and therefore I don't believe in it. And therefore, 15th chapter becomes very important when Krishna has to explain to Arjun, hey, look, let me tell you a few things about my manifestation. And then how I manifest and where I manifest, you have to know that. And that's the part we are in. By the way, chapter 15 is chanted in all the ashrams just before their meal. The entire chapter, because it's not a big one, it's only 20 verses. This chapter is chanted before every meal in every ashram. Why? Because it contains the highest knowledge. And therefore it's a reminder to everyone every day before every meal in the ashram of that highest knowledge. A reminder is needed. Now, to reach that highest truth is not just a simple easy step to say, okay, I'm going to listen to Krishna or listen to his words and yes, I'm going to reach Krishna. No, not so easy. Therefore, in verse number 11 of chapter 15, verse 11, Bhagwan has already said, Yatanto yoginaschainam paschanyatmanyavasthitam Yatantopyakritatmanaha nayanam paschantya chetasaha Yatanta api kritat akritatmanaha asanskritatmanaha. It's the same word. Akritatmana means asanskritatmanaha, which means unrefined, unpurified minds. He says, yes, I exist everywhere, in everyone, but in the unrefined minds, nayanam paschantya chetasaha, mind which is achetasaha, unintelligent, cannot see me. Nayanam paschanti. cannot see me, cannot realize me. Okay, why? Because there are always two kinds of seekers, kinds of yogis, you may say, kinds of seekers or yogis. One, of course, is the one Atmani Avasthitaha, one who is looking inward. We had stopped there. One who is looking inward, and one who is dwelling in the self, looking for that highest truth and realizing that that highest truth is pervading himself, as well as the world outside, and there is no other second truth. Dwelling on this truth, dwelling on this knowledge, keeping it in mind and holding it, needs some kind of steadiness and silence. And that person, one kind of seeker or yogi, is the one who will do this kind of reflection and Atmani Avasthita, look within. And also because of that, he will become a little detached. Because if you want to look within and want to contemplate on something higher, you have to be detached from the less significant, let's call it. Everything is significant. There's my family, there's my job, there's my car and home and security. Nobody is denying all that. The less significant now is put in its right position of less significant. What is more significant in life has to take precedence as to, yes, now my job is to find my highest goal and not dwell more and more into the world outside. So he becomes a little detached automatically. Why? Because if you see even a professional who is working as maybe as a research person in the automobile industry or in the armed forces, they're doing some research about armaments, any kind of scientist or painter or artist, you will notice he doesn't have to say, I'm dropping the world. The world drops from the mind because the involvement in that act of research or art or sangeet, or that is so involving and so intense that the detachment is automatic. Maybe not for us, because we are always sitting on the fence. We want the sansar as well as the highest truth. Sitting on the fence, then we have to think about what is detachment. They don't have to think. So also the highest yogis don't have to contemplate, ab main detachment kaise karu? Not at all. It's automatic. When you hold on to the branch higher, you are already free from the quicksand below, because then you are already lifted higher. Therefore, this sangha vivarjitaha, which was the word used for a detached person, becomes his quality. Okay, and there are of course other qualities. But what happens to the other kind of seeker? Bhagwan is saying, yatanto yoginas chainam. Yes, he is a yogi, and yet he is doing yatan. He is doing his effort, but Bhagwan is very kind. He still calls them yogi, and in his kindness he calls them a seeker. But he says, akritatmanaha, the mind is not purified. It is unrefined. Why unrefined? Because there is still a large element of rajas and tamas still in that person. Rajas and tamas, yes. Ambitious activity outside in the world, or just simple sloth and envy and anger and all the rest of it, and greed, or greed for food or clothing or company or touch, all the senses which are reaching out into the world, ranga, rupa, sparsha, gandha. That person who has got uncontrolled attraction of the world, he says, okay, he may still say, I want to try and get the highest truth, but that extrovertedness is going to be an impediment. Because extrovertedness, by its very definition, means that we are involving ourselves in the outer world through what? Through our senses. Therefore, anything that we are involved in the outer world, any relationship, vastu, vyakti, paristhiti, rang, roop, ras, gandh, it's necessarily with something which is inert, jad, because the senses can experience only jad, inert. Since our senses can experience only the jad, only the inert of this world, our extrovertedness automatically becomes a relationship of ourselves with the jad world, the inert world. And therefore, it is said that your extroversion. Now, people might say, "Oh, there's a big noise made in all our scriptures about being extroverted. About being out there in the world, having people and conviviality around us." Yes, there is a reason for it. It's not as if it's unholy, but it's just that our extrovertedness involves our senses, and our senses can sense only inert. So how long are we going to keep on involving and engaging with the inert world of touch and feel and talk and drink and food and people and the thoughts that they bring in? Because when we we may be very silent and we may experience a great deal of quietness, but the week that we have a couple of parties going on, just see the quality of the mind when we reach home for that whole week. It is a different quality. Why? Because we have brought in a lot of noise from what people said or talked about or heard about or led us to experience through their descriptions, because we have brought in too much extrovertedness. I don't want to say this, but people say that there is too much noise being made about extrovertedness. Yes, there is, and this is the reason. What does Bhagwan require? Bhagwan requires from us that our mind becomes sukshma, very, very subtle, because that subtle tattva is not an object of senses. I cannot touch it, I cannot see it, I cannot even see it. Yeah, just like electricity. I can only see its evidence. Nayanam chindanti shastrani, nayanam dahati pavakah. चैप्टर 2 में बोल दिया था, उसको ना हम स्लाइस कर सकते, ना बर्न कर सकते, ना वेट कर सकते हैं, न चैनम क्लेदयन्त्यापः न शोषयति मारुतः. ऐसी ऑब्जेक्ट के पास हम अपने सेंसेस लेके क्या करेंगे? Even our mind and thought cannot reach it at some point. Therefore, cultivating all the relationships of the sansar through our senses of touch and sight and sound and fragrance is only cultivating senses and making them stronger. But the sukshma buddhi that we need, the subtlety that we need to experience that is invisible, subtle, but still all pervasive everywhere, that subtlety requires a subtle mind, a sukshma mind. And therefore Bhagwan uses a very strong word, akritatmanaha, a mind which is still involved in the extroverted world through rajasic, tamasic activities, and therefore bringing in the 6 vikars of kama, krodha, mad, lobha, moha, matsarya in whatever degree. Yeah, I may have more attachment and less anger. Somebody else may have more anger and less greed for food or clothing. Doesn't matter. We are saying all in all, this whole bundle of vikar, Bhagwan has said, asanskritam, unrefined minds. He says, yes, there are such yogis, and they find it very hard to see me, to find me. And his reason is, Krishna is sukshma. And our extrovertedness, all our activities are sthula, jad, gross world, in the gross world. So that dichotomy has to be broken. We have to know the sukshma, we have to move towards sukshma. How? Sukshma first of all needs steadiness of mind and quietness and santushti. When we are hankering for something in the mind or otherwise, that asantusht mind makes the mind very chanchal, very, very restless. Yes. So our chanchal mind cannot even be sukhi, needs that quality of mind. So if we have Vitteshna, Putreshna and Lokeshna, which was explained, Bhagwan calls it asanskritam. Okay, now what about these 2 yogis? Both are making an effort and one will definitely reach there, maybe sooner or later. I'm reminded of a story. The story of a man who had no one to play dice with. So he wanted to play dice. You know dice? I don't know what it's called. Whatever. So he sat in front of a pillar. And he said, okay, pillar, I am going to play with you. When I throw the dice, for you I am going to throw with the right hand. And for my part, I'll throw with the left hand, so that we can move on the chopper on that board game. Now someone asked him, what's wrong with you? Why are you giving the right hand, which can throw much better, and which can get you much better numbers and better moves, why are you giving that right hand dice throw to the pillar and you're keeping the left hand for yourself? He said the answer is simple. See, that pillar, poor thing, is jad, it's gross, it's inert, it cannot think, and therefore it cannot improve. It cannot improve its quality of mind. It cannot grow, it cannot change. But I am a human being. I have the capacity to choose, to evolve, to grow, to change. If I see too much of kama or krodha or anger or mad or greed or whatever, or irritation or anger, if I'm giving free vent to it, letting it just out and having no control on it, which means I cannot change, then I am as good as a pillar, as a khamba. So he said, excuse me, I am a human being. I have the capacity to grow, to change, to mold and to evolve, and therefore I am okay if I play with the left hand because I can improve. But the poor khamba cannot improve. Now, I know when we hear this story, we are all thinking about the poor khamba. But the moral of the story is, all those of us who have seen and observed asanskritam means unrefined qualities within ourselves of envy or jealousy or greed or having an inferiority complex or superiority complex or bitterness, whatever it is that we are holding, kama, krodha, mad, lobha, moha. Even if we observe it, next time we give free vent to it. That means not ready to change. Then a person not ready to change, how is he different from a khamba, from a pillar? He is as good as a pillar is what this story is trying to say. We are as good as just a khamba, inert, because we say, हम जो है सो है भाई. Okay, तो फिर khamba भी वही है. And therefore, an inert object or an animal which lives out of instinct, उसको तो सिर्फ instinct दिया गया है ना animal को, तो वो भी change नहीं हो सकता, evolve नहीं हो सकता. The human being who does not maybe wishes to change, भगवान तो कह रहे हैं यतन्तो अप्य कृतात्मानः, यतन करते हैं वो बेचारे लेकिन चेंज नहीं होता. That's the reason that we have chosen not to take our potential as humans to evolve, but to remain as we are. The khamba is standing as it is, and it will be demolished as it is. It has no capacity to change. An animal is born with the same instincts, will die with the same instincts, will die with the same instincts. It has no capacity to change. So this khamba story tells us, oh, am I so poor that I cannot alter, and I am as good as an inert object like a khamba? So Bhagavan says, no, there is a quality of potential. There is a tremendous potential I have given only the humans. Only the humans. How favorable he is. He is playing favorites. Bhagavan is playing favorites. With whom? With us, human beings. He is giving us all the favors, giving us the highest possible potential to reach the highest possible truth. And here we are, living out our lives in normal. Krishnamurti used to call this life mediocre. He said, do you want to live and die as mediocrities? That was his way of saying it. Anyway, what is Purushottama? Bhagavan's task in this chapter is to explain to Arjun what is that Purushottam highest conscious principle and what is its manifestation. मैं कहाँ पता चलेगा कि मैं हूँ? Manifestation क्या है? So 4 verses he will be explaining only this. So verse number 12. Yada dityagatam teja jagadbhasayate khilam yachandramasi yacchagnau tattejo vidhi mamakam. That light which is residing, which you see emanating from the moon, from the sun and illumining the whole world, that moon, that fire, that light that you see anywhere is mine. tat tejo, वो तेज जो है, विद्धि, इसको जानिए, विद्धि, माम एकम मेरी है. That means what? That means that all the gross forms of light that you see, from the fire or the moon or the sun. They also have another light which is powering them in order to be able to shine. This is just again a very poetic, allegorical way of explaining that everything that exists in the outer world of the cosmos, I power it. That conscious principle is there even in the cosmic bodies. This is one way of saying it. So that's a manifestation. Now, in the universe, if you talk of cosmos, you see, oh, such a diversity. Yes, there is a great diversity in the universe. So what? That doesn't mean that there is a diversity in that highest principle. The principle remains the same. The bulbs that I have in the room, the tube light gives a different kind of sharpness of light, and the reading lamp or the mood lamp or the night lamp has a different quality of light. They are all lit up and they all have the illumination, but the source is the same. The source cannot be different. And so this diversity is an expression of the equipment. तो हम अपने आप को कहते हैं कि हम अलग हैं. अरे भैया, हम अलग हैं. 3 तरह के अलगाव हम पहचानते हैं. What kind of 3 kinds of differences we experience, okay? Not Bhagwan. Sajatiya bhed, that is the differences between us and the other species. Oh, that cow, that pig, that elephant, I am different. Okay, yes, you are different in one way because the potential is different. आपकी जो तेज और ज्योति है वो शायद ट्यूबलाइट की होगी, and definitely our potential is higher, but the powering agent is the same. विजातीय भेद, विजातीय मतलब हमारा within the same species of human beings हम सोचते हैं अरे I can see differences. वो तो फला जात और कुल और देश और age, even age people discriminate now. All kinds, race. How many kinds of discrimination we have invented, every possible kind. Because, why the discrimination? Because we see differences. We see people as different. That is the whole point of Vedanta. That how can they be different at all when the powering agent, that conscious principle which is powering everyone, has to be the same. It's like fighting over electricity. हमारी electricity आपसे बेहतर है. बेहतर कैसे होगी? The quality remains the same if there is a quality. So the difference that we observe is an expression of the equipment. हमारा body जो है ना एक equipment है. अब वो चाहे black हो, brown हो, चाहे और yellow हो, चाहे tall हो, short हो, and it happens to have been born in a certain country, desh, kal, yug, and jati, sect, religion. That's a matter of karmic chance. I'm calling it karmic chance because there is an order in that also. It's not total chaotic coincidence. Okay? And having said that, there is still a commonality. There's a common principle. We don't see it. That's the whole issue. How can we see it when with the gross eyes, when the gross instruments of our eyes and our mind, which has become gross, dealing with these gross senses, mind has become equally gross. With that kind of a mind, how can we not see only differences? And therefore, within ourselves also, by the way, I said there are 3 kinds of differences. And the third one is, within ourselves we see differences. अरे मैं 5 साल पहले कितना खूबसूरत था, मालूम है कितने हमारे केश बाल थे और झुर्रियाँ भी कम थी. I myself see myself as different between from time to time, like 10 years back, and of course 10 years hence will be different, and the organs will function differently. I had very strong knees, I could dance, I could run, I took part in marathons. Now I can't do it. Yes, of course, within ourselves we see differences. Bahar ka to chodo. Therefore, we can't see ourselves as the expression of that one conscious principle functioning through childhood and youth and old age. We don't see any of this, and therefore the problem. And Bhagavan has said that manifestation of the equipment is what you see. You don't see my manifestation, which is actually powering everything. Okay, so now he has explained He's given one example. Now, verse number 13. Moreover, he says, let me give you some more ways in which I manifest. You can see me in number 13. Gama vishya cha bhutani dharayamyaham ojasa pushnami chaushadhi sarvaha somo bhutva rasatmakaha. I permeate the earth. I am holding up the earth. Dharayamya ojasa, the energy. My energy is holding up the entire earth. Ojas, substrat. That means I am the substratum. Dharayamya. Dharaya aham. Pushnani chaushad. Now, like the moon which nourishes the entire world, I nourish, like the light of the moon which nourishes the food, I nourish the entire world. Again, very poetic and very mystic language. Okay, so we have to decode mystic language. All the scriptures in all the religions will use mystic language. We have to decode it. Now, we know very well that he says, you can see my expression in the earth. Now the earth itself is sustaining us, and it has exactly the right chemicals in the soil, in the air, in the stratosphere, in the water, on this planet. I'm saying just the right kind of chemicals which can sustain life for us, and therefore even to sustain life I have to be present. What about the moon? Here it says that I am the moon which nourishes seedlings and which nourishes Joshadi Sarvaha. We can take this as nourishment for food. Do you know that in Aushadhi, or that is in Ayurveda, they say that when you expose some of the medicines overnight to the full moon light, that Aushadhi or that medicine gains through the moonlight more curative powers. It has been mentioned, and you can ask any Ayurveda if you know a Ved. Curative powers are obtained from the moonlight, and there are many people who will keep the kheer when they make for the prasad, kheer overnight in the moonlight and then have it on full moon night. It is supposed to get curative powers. Farmers have found that if they sow the seeds on a moonlit night and they reap on a moonlit night, that moonlight gives them a much better yield of crops. Yes, this has been observed. Now, therefore, the moon which is nourishing in this strong fashion has just been compared to that Paramatma, the power of that Atma which actually nourishes everything that we are doing, including our prana. Here the word uses, prana is used in the next verse. Pran, which means our internal organs, our internal functions, all our involuntary functions. So not just the cosmos, not just the outer world, but what about my own body and its functioning? So verse number 14. Aham Vaishvanaro bhutva praninam dehamashritah pranapana samayuktah pachamyannam chaturvidham. I, Krishna, the universal conscious principle becomes fire, means acts as that fire, that is Vaishvanara, which abides in the body. What is that? That is the Jushnagni, which any Ayurveda will tell you is the fire, Agni of the body, which helps in digestion. We have Agni in the body, which means the heat which does the digestion. And therefore, it is also said with pran, with breathing, and with apan and digestion. I am associated with everything. What is the doubt about it? It's like the bulb saying, yes, I have a filament and I have a body and I have a glass body and I have a glass cover and I have everything that's needed. I can even plug in and I have a wire. But can it be lit without the electricity powering? Can it be lit? No. So we have everything, all the organs and all the organs, but where are the functions being ordered, being ordained from. So there is, how does the liver know that the filtering and cleansing and all the involuntary functions have to be done? If you ask a doctor, how is it that the kidney or the liver knows that the cleansing and not pumping of blood, but cleansing is and filtering is the function, and the heart knows that its function is pumping of the blood? It's a different function. How does it know? So and how does it know when you are asleep it is still doing those functions, when we are asleep or unconscious? So a doctor will say, अरे ये तो simple है, ये तो सब involuntary functions हैं, because that's as far as he can explain it. Involuntary functions हैं, बस. But who is powering the involuntary functions? You say, that's not my business. I can only see the body as a piece of matter, and functions are happening involuntarily. Who is volunteering it? Nobody wants to step out of the box and ask a question beyond the obvious. Just because science has not reached those answers doesn't mean that there are no answers beyond science. Because there were so many answers that science did not have 200 years ago. But that does not mean that the scientific facts did not exist 200 years ago. So suppose before the time of Newton, people did not know about Gurutvakarshan, that is gravitational pull, and they didn't know how we, on an earth which is rotating, we are still standing steady and not flung out into the universe by our own weight. Nobody had explained it, but that doesn't mean gravity didn't exist. I keep saying this over and over again because there are skeptics who say, if science has not answered it, the answer is not right. And it's mostly the empirical scientists who say this. But the argument is very clear. Science has not yet reached it. Doesn't mean that the fact doesn't exist. So, involuntary functions, agreed. Who is volunteering it? Not me. I was asleep when my kidney and my liver were functioning. Then it has to be the karta, has to be someone else. I can see the manifestation. So I have to believe in that power behind everything. So in short, there is one mighty, mighty consciousness which is pulsating through every atom of our body and every atom of this universe. Isliye, in a very simplistic way, even those who have not read the Gita, they don't have to go into the details. Because there are people giving pravachans in every nook and corner. There are fakirs and sants in almost every village in India, especially in Maharashtra. It's a nation of sants, No, so many sants have never been produced by any other nation. You go to a village, they'll say, ye mandir hai aur ye hamare sant baba yahan. Every village has a sant. And in the simplistic way, he will tell them, Bhagwan kan kan mein hai. But it's the same truth he is putting in a very rustic and very simplistic way. Bhagwan kan kan mein hai. And every villager believes it. You say, I know it. Every villager in India will say, Bhagwan kan kan mein hai. Right. So I'm saying knowledge is never far, it's not beyond our reach. It's just that we haven't attempted so far to make sense of it in our lives in order to transform our thinking, transform our lifestyles, and transform our goals in life. We have not used it. But knowledge is within arm's reach everywhere, in a simplistic form or in a scriptural form, everywhere, in India especially. So Bhagavan says, I pervade everything. You're talking about the cosmic bodies and also your own body and the organs of your own body? Yes. And voluntary as well as involuntary functions? Yes. Without that, you cannot even stand up, leave alone speak and function and perform and do great things for this sansar and for your families. Who is enabling it? Who is enabling it? There is an eternal divinity. That divine principle has to reside in us. In the bulb we call it electricity. In ourselves we can call it Bhagwan. You can call it even electricity within us. How does it matter? The name doesn't matter. So there is an electricity within all of us. Otherwise we are bujhe hue bulb. We are all bujhe hue bulb. What about the mental faculties? ठीक है, Bhagwan is there and it can transform the cosmic bodies, the sun, the moon and all the planets, and our own body and its organs. What about our mental faculties, our emotional feelings? Who is governing those? That's coming up in verse number 15. Now, Verse number 15 says, chapter 15, verse 15. Sarvasya cha, no, the meter changes. Sarvasya chaham hridi sannivishtaha matta smritir jnanam apohanam cha vedaischa sarvairahameva vedyah vedanta kridveda videva chaham. Beautiful verse. It says, and the meaning is, I am seated sarvatra hridi. I am seated in all the hearts and in the memory and in the knowledge that you hold, and even I am there even when you don't have the knowledge. The absence of knowledge and the absence of memory still has my presence. So it's like saying कि अरे बेचारे की याददाश्त चली गई है, अरे वो तो पगला गया है, he's lost his senses, lost his marbles, तो पागल हो गया है, या lost his memory. So that means Bhagwan not there. You mean the divine principle, the conscious principle not there? No. Bhagwan says even in the absence of your memory, your knowledge, smriti and gyan, I am still there. As long as you are alive, I am there. And how is it that he is there in? Because he is pervading everything in order to hold up the life principle, and because as soon as you see that this life principle has left the body, all the organs are there, the outer organs, the inner organs, but that they are unable to sense the world. The life principle has left. So what are you going to do with just the organs? ये organs लेके हम क्या करेंगे? I need the life principle to experience the world and to experience the Lord also, initially. So the Lord is not only in the outward sansar, in the senses, in my body, but also in my mental faculties of memory and knowledge. And what about feelings? Yes, of course. My ability and my capacity to love or to have charity or tolerance or kindness or lack of kindness. Bhagwan, the divinity, is seated squarely. Now Hridi doesn't mean the biological heart which is pumping blood. So Hridi here simply means the center, let's call it the center of the conscious principle, and that conscious principle is everywhere in the body. Antahakaran. It is there in my memory also. For example, I need new knowledge, and when I hear of some new knowledge, I let go of the old knowledge. Naturally, अरे हम कैसे जीते थे, अरे हम तो ये समझते थे कि ये सही है, लेकिन नया knowledge जब आया तो पुराने को हमने छोड़ दिया. So this activity of dropping the old and catching the new knowledge and holding on to it, this activity is of the mind, of the smriti, that is the memory faculty of the mind. That memory faculty is also powered by divinity, by the same principle. Otherwise we will not be able to do this simple function of gaining new knowledge, discarding old knowledge. Simple functions, we can't do it. And so also with Gyan. Apohanam, even in their absence I am there. Apohanam. That means what? The long and the short of it is that the grace, the divine grace is with everyone. But why is it that the sadhak who is a real seeker, why is it that he can reach a certain evolution in his spiritual work, in his spiritual evolution? How? Simple. That sadhak has done shravanam, listen to the scriptures throughout, continuous listening over and over again, shravanam, because our memory doesn't last. The moment we are attracted to something else in the mela, like we are living in a mela, bazaar mein reh rahe हम लोग, क्योंकि जैसे ही बाहर जाएंगे, so there's a restaurant and a sweet house, and sweet यानी मिठाई का मिठाई की दुकान, and boutiques and costumes and jewelry and pubs and bars and everything out there. हम सुनने के बाद सीधे अपने senses को इस मेले में खुला छोड़ देते हैं, and the senses once again abduct the mind. Therefore, the masters have said, and they themselves listen over and over and over again. It's not like the Gita पढ़ ली तो पढ़ ली. आप किसी महात्मा के पास जाएंगे, उनके फ्री टाइम में या तो वो मननम करते रहते हैं, मननम यानी contemplating, या they will be reading something which is a form of shravanam, that is you can read or listen to the. इसका मतलब नहीं कि गीता उन्होंने पहले पढ़ी नहीं है, 50 बार पढ़ी होगी, but leafing through it again or attending somebody's lectures over and over. Shravanam, mananam, holding on to that truth, contemplation, nitidhyasanam. 3 things are the only things which a true sadhak does, because we are all living in a big mela and the distractions are too many, and they are all instruments of mass distraction, not instruments of mass destruction. But I would say they are mass destruction too, but because they are destroying our possibilities and our potential for the higher truth, for the higher living, for a more evolved life, and therefore they are also instruments of our mass destruction and also distraction. So you see, Bhagwan has made everyone with the same grace and divine principle. But this brings me to the story of the 3 dolls. These 3 dolls are all made of salt. The salt doll also has a certain significance, but right now I want to say that these 3 dolls, or you can even call them wax dolls. One of them has a defect. The defect is that the moment she hears some truth or some higher lecture, श्रवणम जब करती है, तो उसको जब बना रहा था कारीगर, तो उसने एक छेद ऐसा बनाया कि the sound comes in from one ear and goes out from the other. And there was another doll, and that doll also had another defect, बिचारी को. तो वो manufactured defect था. The defect was that she would hear things and understand, and she was able to speak and talk mechanically about the truth, having not realized it. A bit like us. पूरा realize नहीं कर पाना, लेकिन mechanically उसको repeat करना उसकी शक्ति भी थी और weakness भी थी, तो ये defect भी था. But एक तीसरी doll थी जो the one who could listen through one ear, did not let it dissipate the knowledge through too much of talking, but retained it between the 2 ears. दूसरे कान से भी नहीं निकलता था उसकी knowledge, and she would contemplate, मनन करती थी, so that knowledge was not dissipated, and with that contemplation she could apply the knowledge. ये 3 dolls बनाई गई थी. But then you will say, अरे वो लोगों में सब फर्क होता है. But if you melt these, or if you submerge the 3 salt dolls in the ocean, they will merge with the ocean. यानी कि वो तत्व जिससे बनी है वो सब एक ही है. डिवाइन प्रिंसिपल सभी में एक है. हम में, आप में, जूइश कम्युनिटी में, दुनिया भर में एक ही तत्व हो सकता है, दूसरा तत्व ही नहीं हो सकता. That essence of conscious principle. So she will melt into the ocean and become salty water again. If it's a wax doll and then you crush it, and all the 3 wax dolls can be crushed into one ball of wax, and you won't know who is who. कौन था? कुछ नहीं. It's only when we are functioning as these bodies, and we have this certain mind and body attached to us. Now I'm putting it the other way. The Atma has mind and body attached to it. So we are divine spiritual creatures with sthul bodies, not the other way around. Not that we are sthul bodies and a sthul mind and a chanchal mind with Atma somewhere hanging around. That's what most people believe. It's the other way around. We are only and only the divine principle, kan mein, and only going through this period of time with a sthul body, which will drop anyway. It's like an envelope, it's like a cover, it's like clothing. Yeah, vasamsi jeernani. So it has to drop now. Shravanam, Mananam and Nitidhyasanam, which is done by some of the sadhakas, the seekers, are the only sadhakas who can reach that highest principle, having said that the grace resides with everyone. they are able to tap into the grace. And that tapping into the grace requires hard work, which means that if I want my computer to be virus free, then I do some hard work. I go and get a malware, what is it called? The one that can block malware. Software. I get that software. So if my computer has got a virus called the Shama or Zeus or Code Red or Norton, I'll do something about it, right? The computer viruses are called Slammers and Zeus and Code Red, and my viruses are Kam, Krodh, Madh, Lobha, Moha. The greed of the world is not going. My attachment to the world is not going. Ab wo virus ka kya kare? So what do I do with my computer? I sit down, I get an antivirus software, I run the antivirus software, and that doesn't mean the virus will not come again. I know and I'm prepared for it, and I keep a jammer over there. What is my jammer in my life for Kama Krodh? My jammer in my life is only Shravanam, Mananam, Nitidhyasanam, or some people use Japa and prayer or reading. That depends once again on the propensity or the interest and capacity of every sadhaka. किसी को कोई capacity है पढ़ने की या सिर्फ सुनने की या सिर्फ जप करने की या मनन करने की, whatever it is. But these are our jammers, our antivirus jammers. अगर हम श्रवण, मनन, listening and contemplating and meditation and stillness, keeping that stillness with us नहीं कर पाएंगे, then I don't have an antivirus software. इसके अलावा software है ही नहीं. Then I let my computer run amok and it's going to be so badly jammed, I won't be able to function on my computer. Every program that I run to do my normal functions of having a Word file or an Excel file to do my transactions, they will be disturbed and damaged. But that's happening to my life also. Because I'm unable to contain and to control my envy or my jealousy or my superiority complex, trying to put down people or making these unnecessary comparisons all the time. Comparisons are odious, Krishnamurti used to say. How can you compare one instrument to another? They are all different. The essence, of course, is the same. And because they are the same, comparisons are even more odious. It's our comparison with this and that which gives us a hankering कि मुझे भी ये चाहिए या वो चाहिए, and our desire takes root. It seems to take a form at that very moment. And once the calm starts, there's an 8-step ladder of fall. Kama, Krodh, Madh, Lobha, Moha, delusion and pranashyati, our own destruction. So the destruction of my computer is the same as the destruction of my life. I'm unable to have normal relationships, healthy relationships, where there is spiritual growth, where there is being able to take sukh and shanti and steadiness and spirituality from each other. That's a healthy relationship, not that of give and take in material terms only. I'm unable to have that. I'm unable to hold on to a job because I keep quarreling with the boss, and the relationships with my colleagues in the office are so toxic, and in my neighborhood my relationships are so toxic, so poisonous, that there's hardly anyone I can even say I can be civil with. It's happening to many of us, to lesser or greater degree. I may be using extreme examples, but to a lesser or higher degree, the life becomes dysfunctional, unhealthy, unspiritual, just the way my computer is going to be dysfunctional and jammed. So if Bhagwan exists everywhere, again there will be skeptics who will say, everywhere and all the time. So how is it that I don't experience? But you are the experience. वही तो कहना चाह रहे हैं वो. रामकृष्ण ने जो केशव चंद्र जी से बोला था कि you don't believe in God, but when I see you speaking with such erudition, such power, such beauty, arguing against God, of course, but your arguments are full of beauty and such well-chosen words. They're like pearls strung on they're like pearls strung beautifully. I just look at you and I say, how can you have that power? There is divinity in you. It's like that. The manifestation is right there for us to experience. But we like to experience the outer. The outer is everything that you think is not right in the world. What is not right? Oh, there's someone who is not driving right on the road, or someone in the society who is not behaving right, or there's not enough finances coming in, or the children's education, or there's promotion, or the nastiness of bosses in the corporate. Yeah, they'll be nasty. That's their business. It is their karma. Our shanti is completely bhang because we choose to stay away from the highest truth and get involved in the noisy mela that life is, full of all kinds of people. So when you go to a mela, there are all kinds of people. Do you get into a quarrel or bickering with all kinds of people there? No, we ignore them because they are just passing by, and we are there to make sure that we are happy in that mela for that period of time. That's our goal. So for that happiness, we say, I'm not going to quarrel with anyone. But that's not how we lead life, our own life. Bhagwan says, I am there. आपकी दृष्टि, आपका attention कहीं और है, आप कहीं और देख रहे होते हैं, इसलिए you can't experience me, my presence. Now, explaining a little bit more to Arjun about his Bhagwan's manifestation, he says in verse number 16, द्वाविमौ पुरुषौ लोके क्षरश्चाक्षर एव च क्षरः सर्वाणि भूतानि कूटस्थोक्षर उच्यते. I am Kutastha. I am the Kutastha is the substratum which does not perish, imperishable. So you can say that there are two realities, just for the sake of saying. Of course, there is only one reality. But what we see, what we experience is perishable and imperishable. Perishable क्या है? Everything, of course, that you can see with the world, yeah? Yad drishtam tat asat. But imperishable भी है कोई चीज जो कभी भी cannot be destroyed. So what are these perishable things? Everything that is jad and stool and inert, the world of matter. Okay. What about the imperishable? Of course, that imperishable is who we actually are. How do you know that? I am that imperishable, but I can see my body disintegrating, and I can see people falling sick, and I can see them dying, and I attend their funerals. Aren't they the same people? No. They are the instruments through which divinity was expressing for that 80, 90, 70 years. They are those instruments. ये बल्ब टूटा है, तो अगर बल्ब टूट गया, उसमें फिलामेंट नीचे गिर गया, तो क्या वो उसकी इलेक्ट्रिसिटी कहीं और चली गई? So electricity has nowhere to go. It just exists. I think even more powerful example is radio waves. Because electricity at least needs a physical transportation through the wires, but radio waves are in the air and you just have to tune in. तो अगर हमारा रेडियो टूट गया और it's not being able to catch that 90 point क्या है रेडियो मिर्ची 99.9 किलोहर्ट्ज का वो that frequency, if you can't catch that frequency and the radio has gone back, does it mean the radio wave is not there? Of course it's there. So if the body falls, it falls. If my radio breaks, it breaks. There's no big deal about it. Provided as we are living, we understand that that radio wave is what is the reality of me, and it's never going to die. It's imperishable. It just cannot. It's a frequency. So it's that energy that we are talking about. Okay. So please don't be confused if I give too many examples, but sometimes it becomes important. So verse number 17. Again, Krishna himself has to give an example to Arjun. Verse number 17, he says, Uttama Purushatvanya Paramatmetya Dahritaha Yo Lokatrayama Vishya Bibharya Vyaya Ishwaraha Bibharya Vyaya Ishwaraha. Supreme Purusha, he says, yes, all of you, many instruments, all of you see distinctions because looking through the stool, gross instrument of eyes and mind. Yes, but that Supreme Purusha, the highest, is indestructible. That we have to understand, like the radio waves, or you can even say Wi-Fi. Wi-Fi is also a frequency. It's just a frequency. It has to be tapped. It has to be tuned in, like the radio needs tuning. And therefore, this indestructible, all-pervading, he hasn't used the word energy, but he calls it the highest Purusha. It is there with you through all the stages of waking, dream and sleep. Lokatraya, Traya lok. हमारे 3 लोक हैं, हम 3 लोकों में जीते हैं. वेकिंग, ड्रीम एंड स्लीप, अवस्था त्रय. अब तीनों में हम देख रहे हैं कि हम तो वही हैं. द वेकर, द ड्रीमर एंड द स्लीपर, द वन हु इज इन डीप स्लीप. Do I change? Do I suddenly wake up and say that okay, I don't know who I am, I need to find out who I am? No. In all 3 states, that means it's imperishable. It's like saying that my radio tuned into 99, then 98 and 97, but now I don't know which is the what is a radio frequency. Frequency is the radio waves are the same, only the frequencies have differed. So my 3 states are different. I wake, I dream, I sleep, but that wave or that energy does not change in me. If it did, I wouldn't be alive. Acha? So then the question arises that is it possible for me to know whether this world is pervaded by only one tattva? Okay, so the example given is that of a dream. So suppose you have a dream and you are in a desert and you are parched with thirst and it's really very hot, and then the night falls in the desert. In the desert land, when night falls, it gets very cold, and then the camels go to sleep, the moon is high, the stars are bright. You experience all that, and then you move up, light a fire for some warmth, and you move up a little bit closer to the fire. As you do that, you feel a little comforted, and there's a sense of comfort at the end of the day, close to the fire. Now tell me, in this dream, who experienced the past heat and then the comfort of the fire and then the sight of the beautiful moon? These are all experiences. They're all sensations. The sensations and experiences and feelings were all on one substratum. And that substratum was your own mind. It was illumined by your own mind. This is at the individual level. But there is a samashti mind, they say. Samashti mind, that a universal cosmic mind, which is just experiencing this whole sansar. And therefore, when you wake up from the dream, you say, yes, I experienced everything, the highs and the lows and the comfort, but they were not real. You say that about your dream, right? Yes. And what was the common thing in that dream? You, the experiencer of that dream, is the common thing. That did not change. In the past heat of the sun, in the night, that is the night of the dream, the day and the heat of the dream, the experiencer did not change. It remains the same. So there is a common element. Therefore, in the same possible way, this samashti, the universal mind, is possibly experiencing this whole sansar, and when this sansar ends, we say, oh, so it was an experience. No, it was an unreal experience. So we say that the dream dissolved. Dream dissolve हुई है, but it was an unreal dream. वो real थी ही नहीं, dissolve कैसे हुई? Dissolve कहाँ हुई? जब real ही नहीं था तो dissolve किस चीज में हुई? Sansar is like that. It's not, when we say sansar will end or sansar is going to dissolve where? In what? It has come from the dreamer's mind, it goes back, and it was so unreal that even the mind doesn't hold it later on. So the source of everything, my mind was the source of my dream. The source of everything in the world is the Lord. That divine conscious principle is, and therefore he calls himself Dharayami Aham Ojasa. Of every bit of energy, ojas, that you see, Aham, I am the Dharayami. I am the supporter. Who was the supporter of your dream? You. You can say my mind or myself. In the same way, everything that goes on in this world has to be held by something. Think about the dream. It has to be held by some substratum. How can you experience so many sensations and there is no substratum, that someone holding it? In the same way, all the experiences, everything, the whole sansar just moves on, and there has to be someone. There has to be some screen, some kutastha, the substratum, and that is the let's call it evidence of the manifestation of the divine principle in all our lives. And having said that, Bhagwan has tried hard to explain to Arjun, look, you can see my manifestation everywhere. You can experience it. You are living because of it. I'm the reason for everything that's happening to you, and yet you deny my existence or my presence. That will make it very difficult. So in the 18th verse, he will go on to say that you're talking about perishable, imperishable. I am not even perishable or imperishable, because perishable, imperishable are opposites. The divine conscious principle has no opposite. It only is. उसको एक ही state मालूम है. उसका एक ही state है. So it's like saying electricity. Electricity knows only one state, and you can't say कि ये fast electricity है, ये slow है, ये dim है, और ये sharp electricity है. You can't even say it. It's the instrument through which the electricity is passing is dim or slow or fast or whatever. The instrument. But electricity does not know any duality. It just is. So Bhagavan says, perishable, imperishable. ये क्या बात कर रहे हो? मैं तो दोनों के परे हूँ. That he will say in verse number 18, and only 3 verses left. Couple of them actually, 20, and we will complete chapter 15 with a complete proof, undeniable proof that divinity is all around us. Divinity is in the sansar. Divinity is who we are. Divinity is who my neighbor is. And there is no other truth except divinity in this entire world. There is no other truth. Truth meaning that which does not change. Everything else changes. So that is the only divinity we have to believe in. And we will take it up tomorrow. Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahana Bhunaktu Sah Viryam Karvavahe Tejasvinavadhitamastu Ma Vidvishavahe. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om. Shri Krishna Arpanamastu. Krishna Arpanamastu. Krishna Arpanamastu.